Hi, I'm Stunning Stella Cheeks.
And I'm the Enigma Erin Klein.
And this is
Not Your Demographic.
We used to be a feminist wrestling podcast.
Shockingly, we'd rather talk about literally anything else now.
Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, everyone. I'm not under a blanket this time.
It's not like it helped last time. I don't know.
No, it didn't. I was talking to Michael before I started setting up, and he was like, listen, I walked in last time to ask you something, and I saw the setup that you were under. You're not allowed to do that anymore. That's not healthy. It can't be good for you. And I was like, okay, fair enough.
Whatever. Look, people don't come to Not Your Demographic for good audio quality. There are other podcasts for that. This is not that podcast. This podcast, it's amazing that there are listeners to this podcast, frankly. So
it's true. That's fucking true. Oh fuck. How are you?
I'm pretty good. It's Christmas week, I guess. Christmas was a couple days ago. Really low-key Christmas. We did our New Year's Eve, our Christmas Eve tradition where we go to this like really bougie restaurant. And that's basically the only thing that we did because we like quarantined and took a million tests and we were like, okay, we're gonna do this one thing. And I got the complete series of Supernatural from my husband.
You sure did. It's a very sweet gift. When you sent that to me, I was like, that's very thoughtful of him.
It weighs like 10 pounds.
Well, yeah, it's 15 fucking seasons.
Very heavy. So on my rewatch, because I'm going to rewatch, I'm going to do it on the Blu-ray so I can get all the extra content.
Jesus Christ.
So that was pretty good. It got, I think a thing that a lot of people realized during COVID is the importance of physical media.
Yeah.
So that's a thing. And I'm very happy to own Supernatural. And I own Hannibal and I own Good Omens. Like I own all of Star Trek. Like you can't take my favorites away from me.
That's right. I have the X-Files. I have Battlestar Galactica. Like both of those have been pulled off of streaming platforms before. And I was like, never again. I'll never ever be caught without it.
Did you know that Supernatural is not on the CW app?
What? Why?
Yeah. I was having trouble with Netflix one day and I was like, fuck, this is really ruining my fucking flow. I'm on a timeline here. And I was like, well, CW's got to have it. And they don't. I don't know. Maybe because they're like, this is our cash cow. Because the CW is a free app. I don't know. But it seems weird to not have Supernatural on the CW app.
Yeah, that's weird. Honestly, I bet it has to do with their Netflix contract. I bet that Netflix was like, we have to have the rights to this exclusively if you're gonna have your own free bullshit or whatever.
Well, you can watch Walker whenever you want.
Which is never.
Which is literally never. Except for that one time we watched it for Daddy. I've never gone back. I'm really proud of myself, frankly.
I am too. I really thought you were gonna cave. Like, no, don't do it. Terrible.
Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Same. We had a pretty low-key Christmas. We did my family Christmases when I had my first baby shower at the beginning of December. So we just stayed in the city. We much like many people who have mother-in-laws, my relationship with my mother-in-law is, a mother-in-law relationship.
It's what it is. You can't escape it. It's an endless cycle.
Exactly. And part of it is that my husband is not particularly close with his mom, and so that obviously colors the way that I interact with her. But we thought we were doing Christmas with her and his brother, and the four of us were gonna like exchange gifts and then go to his like larger family Christmas. And we showed up and his brother wasn't there, and his mom was like, "What are you guys doing here?" And we were like, aren't we doing Christmas?
I literally almost just did a spit take onto the microphone.
And there was just this moment where Michael looked at me like, what hell did I just create for myself? Like, I can't believe that we just did this. And we
could have had a Christmas just us.
Yeah. And like, because we were planning on at least just like stopping by his aunt's house for the greater family Christmas on that side, we were like, we drove out to McHenry, which is like an hour and a half away. And so it was like, we can't go back to the city and then drive out to a different suburb. And so we just like hung out with his mom for like an hour and a half. And it was just like, what have we done? Why did we do this? So it was very strange. And like, we got in the car to drive to his aunt's house, and he just turned to me and he was like, thank you very much for shouldering the responsibility for that whole conversation. Like, yeah, that's my job. This is what I do, I guess.
Man, I feel that all the time where I'm like, people make fun of me all the time because they're like, God, I have so many questions. And I'm like, because nobody else is contributing to this fucking conversation. So yeah, I have like back pocket questions because you guys are just fucking standing there.
Right. And like, I will not suffer this awkward silence. Like, you cannot make me. I will not do it. Like,
what book have you been reading? Just tell me about it.
And so we went to his bigger family Christmas, and we kept our masks on the whole time. Like, we made like a plate of food to go and like ate in the car in their driveway before we left.
Very like, Sammy of you at your wedding.
Yes. But like, everyone
I'm keeping that in, too. By the way.
That's fine. But like, everyone understood too. It's like, I'm very pregnant. And so everyone was like, yeah, it makes sense that you guys are keeping your masks on, that you're like trying to at least reduce any chance that you might get it. Michael ordered truly an insane number of KN95 masks, so we have like really nice masks now.
Nice.
They came in the mail, and I opened the package and was like, how many did you order? And he just looked at me and went, enough. It's like,
25,000.
Not quite that many, but like a couple hundred. I was like, what the fuck? Where did you even find these? I don't want to know. Don't even tell me. And so it was nice that we were able, because like, I worked the 2020 election during no vaccine, and I wore an N95 for that and didn't get COVID. And so I was like, okay, I feel like at least semi-confident that this is like a good enough barrier for me. And everyone was really good too about like staying at least 6 to 10 feet away. And so it was nice to feel like, okay, even if everyone else isn't masking, everyone else has been very honest about their status and about like how they're feeling. So that was at least pretty nice. And then we went to his dad's side of family yesterday, and same deal. We just kept our masks on the whole time. Everyone was really good about it, but we had like an impromptu baby shower. It was so weird. I like wasn't expecting it, and then like all the women in the family were like, here are all of these gifts for your baby, let's open all of them right now. I was like, what the fuck is happening?
Okay.
So it was like, oh, sure, I'll take all of this stuff, thank you, because a lot of them were like in town and we're like, we're not actually gonna be here for your baby shower. So it was like, okay, yeah, I totally understand. Wish I would have had a little warning that it was gonna be like on display. It was really unexpected. But his aunt gave us a bunch of, because like we don't have any, like we have a bunch of nieces, and so we don't really have a bunch of like, we're, in case you didn't know, everybody, surprise, we're having a boy, and we don't have any like boy hand-me-down stuff. But his aunt has a son, and so she had saved like a shitload of stuff from the 80s, and so she gave us like truly the most adorable, hideous little jumpers I've ever seen in my fucking life. She gave us like a blue pinstriped suit for a boy. It was so cute, and Michael was like, whatever. This is, my wife wants these things, that's fine, we'll take all of it, it's fine. And so we have a bunch of like ridiculous 80s hand-me-downs now, so it was quite lovely. I was really glad that we went, and like we were there for a couple of hours, and then we're like, all right, it's time to drive back, we're like good on this, and then just like chilled the rest of the holiday. It was really nice. We did our gift exchanges like a week ago. We're those people who like the second it arrives, we're like, I don't want to wrap this here, just take it. So
my husband, I'm good at wrapping because I worked in retail for a long time. And I think I've probably told the story before, but one year my husband just put all my gifts behind pillows, and I was like, this is funny once, you cannot do this again. And so he was like, okay, I'm gonna watch this YouTube tutorial, whatever. And man, the Supernatural set is a box. It's the simplest thing to wrap. and I knew what it was, because he had like, because it was really the one thing I had asked for, and he got a very good deal on it on Black Friday, and he was like, I know that I shouldn't tell you this, but I got a really good deal on it. I was like, okay, that's very sweet. So I knew what it was, and I was like, how did you wrap it like that? That is not a square. What? And he was like, and the most embarrassing part is I watched that YouTube video several times.
It's not that hard.
No, it really isn't. It's just very funny.
we did a Secret Santa gift exchange with his dad's family and like played a game so that we could like all participate. There were only like 10 of us. And we were like wrapping stuff before we had to leave. And Michael just started cackling and he was like, I have the best idea for wrapping this. I was like, what bullshit are you about to pull out? What is about to happen right now? And he bought a game that was his contribution to the Secret Santa. And he literally put it inside of a Ziploc bag. And that was how he wrapped it. So like you could just see it. And he just thought it was the funniest fucking thing. And he was like, my family will think this is funny. And he brought it and he put it on the table and everyone was like, what the fuck is this? And like his dad thought it was very funny and his cousin thought it was funny. And I was just like, I know who I married. I did this on purpose. Like, it was just one of those moments where he was like so pleased with himself. I was like, oh my God, you're ridiculous.
I talked about the box set that I got. What's a good gift that you got? If we're gonna be all capitalist about it.
Yeah, capitalism. Let's see. Well, a good gift that I got a lot of bath stuff. That's what I mostly asked for. I was like, I'm so pregnant. I've got 2 more months. Like, all I want to do is lay in the bath because I'm weightless and I don't have to like feel the gravity of this child pressing on my lungs. So I got a bunch of really good like spa set stuff, which was in a really nice pair of slippers, which I was like, I'm the oldest human alive. I'm so old and I love it. And then Michael got me an official jersey from the White Sox. So I have 3 now. Yeah. He drove down to the store on the south side and got it and sent me a message. He was like, I'm bringing you home a present. Also, I got something for Jean. And so he bought this like very cute White Sox sweater for Jean. And I was like, oh, this is really sweet. So
that's very cute.
Yeah. So those were my big tick offs this year. It was nice. I was like, I didn't really ask for anything fancy because I don't really need anything. It's just like kind of nice actually.
Yeah, Nick actually, the other gift that he got me a Alyssa Naher Red Stars like kit. So
yeah,
I also got like a sports thing for
fuck yeah.
And I opened it and I was like, yes, my girl. She's the best. She's so scary.
You love scary women.
I really do. She's also like the main goalie for the US like women's like soccer team. She's like a super badass. She rules. Yeah. And it's like a Chicago like one. It looks like Chicago flag. It's super dope. Anyways.
Hell yeah. I love nice sports jerseys. Like they're fucking expensive, but it's worth every fucking penny. They're so great. I love them.
So have you been reading during this Christmas break?
I have not been reading quite as much as I did before. I had so many things come in at the library all at the same time.
You like, do that to yourself all the time.
Well, it's the worst because like it rules because I go to a small enough branch that I often jump the line, and because the way that the Chicago Public Library works is if you are at the same branch as a book that's dropped off, they just take it to the next person on the list. And so I jumped like 300 people and got a couple of like really high priority stuff that all came in at the same time. And I was like, what asshole also ordered all of this and now returned it all? And now I have to read all of this like super fast. So I had a bunch of stuff come in where I was like, oh God, okay, I guess I'll fly through these other things. But I finished 4 books, a graphic novel called American Cult, a graphic history of America's religious movements from pioneer days to today. Really good. It's by Robyn. It's edited by Robyn Chapman. But the idea of the book is that every story, every cult that they cover is written by a different person and illustrated by a different person. So it gives you like this variety of both visually and like storytelling wise. I really enjoyed it. I thought they picked a bunch of really interesting ones, and like I know a lot about cults, and so it was interesting to see like what they picked and how they covered it. It was because some of them were like, here's a really detailed history about like Jewish Orthodox people in America and how it functions essentially like a cult, and then there were other ones that was like told first person style from like there was one, I don't remember the name of the cult, but it was like a satanic cult in the late 80s, and it was only like a couple pages long. It was literally told first person story style from someone who was at a meeting and was being recruited but didn't go into any of the history. And so it was supposed to be like, this is how you get brought into this cult and this is what it feels like to be recruited. So I thought that they did a really interesting job. Some of the stuff they left out, I was like, this is an interesting choice that some of these weren't in here. But then on the other hand, it was like, well, this book can't be 800 pages either. Right. And so I thought they did a really good job of editing it down in the way they did. And they also it was only religious movements. So it was like Trumpism wasn't part of it. It came out in 2020. And so she made a note at the beginning where she was like, I specifically only did religious movements because political cults mean something very different. And like they impact our society in a completely different way. And so it felt wrong to include those in this. And I was like, okay, I understand why this choice was made, even though I personally, if I was collecting American cults, would have included some of them, but like it makes sense to me why she did it. So I really enjoyed that. I read And Then There Were None, Agatha Christie.
Yeah, books.
So good. It was so good. And like I like Agatha Christie, and I've read some of her stuff in the past, but a lot of that was stuff I read in high school, and I like barely remember it. And a lot of what I know about Agatha Christie is that I've done a lot of academic reading about Agatha Christie, and like I recommended that show She Done It. Like I've listened to a lot about Agatha Christie. So it was nice to be like, oh, that's right. It's so enjoyable to read her books. They're so fucking good. Yeah, I really liked it. I did not know who the person was. I had a couple of guesses, and like I spoiler if you've never read And There Were None, I kind of figured it was someone who was supposed to be dead, but I picked the wrong person. Okay. And so it was like, and I loved the way that it ended with the like letter in a bottle. Like I just thought it was so clever. So I really enjoyed it. You read it and talked about it last time, but we also were like reading it for a book club. And so I was like, I'm gonna prioritize this. I fucking flew through it. I read it in like a day and a half.
It's so enjoyable.
It was just so easy.
The killer twist, he was my suspect from the beginning, but then once, he died, or I guess I gave it away because I said whatever. It's from like 1939. Get over it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then I just totally was like, well, that person died. Like I did not suspect that it would have been somebody who had died.
Yeah, it was just really well done. And like, I like the way that everyone starts to unravel as you get towards the end, and the people who are left, like you really start to feel their like fear and anxiety. It's just so well done. I mean, she's the queen of the mystery novel for a fucking reason, and like duh, obviously, but I put that on my best of 2021 list because I enjoyed reading it so much that it was like, yeah, this belongs on this like best books I read this year list, which is like silly maybe because it's fucking a million years old, but like
who cares? It's the best book you read this year. It's not, we're not NPR being like the best books that came out this year. It's like, no, this is the best book I read this year. And like, if you want to know, last year we made our official NYD Rex and we put it on our like Instagram and stuff. So you can check that out. I'll make sure to drop that with this podcast. But like, I make fic recs, and like some of those were written. One of the ones that I recced was written like in 1998 because it's like a Skinner fic. Like I don't care. I read it for the first time this year and I thought it was great.
Absolutely. Part of what is fun about being a reader is that like you don't read something when it comes out right away and you come back to it later and you're like, oh, I thought everybody hated this, and yet here I am. I love this. Like with this like time that has passed out of the like new book energy that people feel about stuff, and like, or like as you are experiencing because you're reading Thursday Murder Club, like everyone says something is great and then you come to it a year later and you're like, how did I not read this? This is so fucking good.
Yeah, I'm like 25 pages into that book and I was like, oh shit, this book is very good.
Yes, it's so good.
I mean, honestly, like unsurprising, that's how I like to consume my media. Like maybe it's not the best is to like be a part of the conversation when people are happening, but like I think my favorite shows from the 60s, I literally started Supernatural after it finished. Like all of my fandoms except for Good Omens, I guess, really is something that I participated in after. And even stuff that's still active, like I'm behind on Star Trek Lower Decks and Star Trek Discovery because I don't like to watch it when everybody else is watching it. I like to be past people talking about it on the internet, and especially because I don't care about spoilers. I like to have distance and then I can just watch it and have my own opinions, and like I like being a part of the conversation. I like knowing the stuff, but I don't need to know it right away. I want to have my own experience reading or watching or consuming stuff.
Yeah, I get it. I also read Ghost Boys by Jewell Parker Rhodes. My sister Jillian recommended this to me. She just graduated from college this last semester. She had her graduation December 18th, and I was like, oh fuck, you graduated from college. Like, I hate that. That's terrible. This is the worst thing ever. But she was a English lit she double majored because she's smart as fuck, but one of her majors was an English lit and like criticism major. And so she took a like young, not necessarily children's literature, but like young people literature class. And it was like one of the last things that she did. And this was one of the books that she had to read for it. And it's about a young black boy who's killed by the police and he becomes a ghost. And then how that killing has this impact ripple out in his community, both through his family and then him having to experience what it's like to be dead and watch like no one be held accountable for his murder, basically. And then part of what happens is that the daughter of the cop that killed him can see him, and so she has to also like grapple with the fact that her dad killed this child, basically, and like, my dad lied to me about what happened because I could talk to the person who he murdered.
I can see the ghost.
Right. And I mean, it's a young adult novel, so it's written very simply. I read it in like one sitting, but it was very sad. Obviously, it's about violence against young Black men, but the like part of the central tenet of it is that all of these young Black men who were killed by the police and by like state sanctioned violence basically can see each other as ghosts, and so they like exist in the afterlife to try to help each other through this experience of having been these victims of violence. It was very difficult to read, but it was so well done. And once I finished it, I was like, this is such a great resource for like middle grade kids who are trying to understand these concepts. Like, it was just really, really well done. So I was really glad Jillian recommended it to me. We chatted about it a little after I finished, and she was like, yeah, I made the mistake of reading it at work in one sitting. She's like, and then I just cried in my office for like an hour afterwards. I was like, yeah, I would not want to have read this in public. This was pretty fucking rough. But it was really good. I would definitely recommend it. It was a really quick read too. And then the last thing that I finished, I put this on my best books of the list year, Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune. It was the one that came out this year. It was so fucking good.
You're obsessed with this dude.
Dude, I like, the first book was so you, and like, I understand now why you're like, it was just a little too me. It was like, it hit all of my spots a little too on the nose. This one is so Emily. Like, it's about, I mean, it starts with this, it's about death, yeah, but it starts with this guy who is a like 40-year-old attorney who's a huge piece of shit and has an unexpected heart attack and dies. And like, that's the beginning of his journey, is that he's then reaped by a reaper and taken to this like way station where he's being prepared to cross over into whatever it is that comes next, and that's through this door in this house. And it was so beautiful. It was so sad, but in like this really, really moving way. And the idea is that people come there and then they like cross over within like a couple of days, maybe a week, and he's there for like several months because he's coming to grips with the fact that like, I was a bad person. I treated people very poorly, and now I'm realizing I should have lived my life very differently. And how do I come to grips with the fact that my life is over, and I wish I could redo it? And what does this mean for me? What does this mean for the people around me, for like the couple of ghosts I have to interact with this? And part of it too is about the other people who die and come through this way station, who die in other ways, where like one is a suicide, one person is murdered in a very violent way, and how these people are trying to grapple with their own deaths afterwards. There's a woman who is alive, because it's set in like a tea shop, and the ferryman owns the tea shop and is human but can interact with the dead. And there's a woman whose daughter had died and gone through this way station, and so it's also about the grief of losing a child and what it's like to be alive and know that you couldn't do anything to help this child, and like how she grieves through this process. It made me cry so fucking hard. I legit thought I was going to be sick, but like in a good way. It was just so moving. I thought that he did such a great job with like in the way that House on the Cerulean Sea is it's very funny, but it's also about like children and found family and like how these children like grow into these roles. It was like that, but for adults. And so there's this like found family who exist in this like death way station, and how they like help each other through these very difficult pieces. And as they start to realize like some of the information we've been given by the like higher beings than us isn't true, and how do we grapple with that because we're supposed to lead these people through to this other side, like how does this impact us and how do we deal with it? It was just so fucking good. Like, I swear to God, if his next novel is about like gay murder mystery in space, I'm gonna be like, he's listening into the Mavens. Like, these books are too perfect for all of us. It is so ridiculous, but it's so good. Like, I truly cannot recommend it enough. I liked it even more than House of the Cerulean Sea. Like, it was such a great follow-up to that too. And obviously, like, J.J. Klune's whole thing is that he's a gay man, and part of what he wants to do when he writes is to project like positive gay relationships. And so there is also this like queer love story that exists inside of this like tragic environment, but it's very well done and it's really believable in a way that I really enjoyed too. So I really cannot recommend it enough. I finished it and was like, this is going on my best of list. It was so good. It replaced House in the Cerulean Sea on my best of list. That's how much I liked it.
I noticed.
Yeah, I was like, oh good, she hasn't made the thing yet. I'm just gonna replace it really quick. What have you finished reading?
Oh, a lot. So I'll just like slam through this.
Okay, great. It was me last time. It's fine.
I'm currently at 149 of my 150 goal. So
hell yeah.
Which I definitely will finish because I'm gonna fly through Thursday Murder Club. Like I absolutely know that.
Yeah.
So the first book I read was Dawn by Octavia E. Butler. It is the first of the Xenogenesis series. I don't even know how to fucking talk about this, man. The premise is some apocalypse happens on Earth, and the remaining people are saved, quote unquote, by an alien race. And it follows the main person, Lilith, who wakes up and learns that she has been held captive by this alien race, the Oankali, who are super duper alien. Like there's a whole scene where she has to like exist in a room with one, and he was like, I'm not letting you out of this room until you can be in the same space as one of our species without freaking the fuck out, because they're so alien. There's 3 different genders, I guess. There's the like a male and a female, and they don't have any eyes, and they have like Medusa tentacle hair, and then like gray skin. And then there is the 3rd gender, who I can't remember the name. It's not Oankali because that's a species, whatever. But they have, this is the reason I originally read it, because we were doing research for The Thing. And there's an article that we read about Xenogenesis and The Thing and the otherness of the aliens. But one of them has like giant, weird tentacles, sensory tentacles that are described as trunk-like. Anyways, whatever. So I was like, I'm gonna read this freaky ass book, and it is a freaky ass book. It is, because the whole thing, and this is not a spoiler, is the Oankali are they're wanderers, and they come across species, and then they do quote trade with them, and essentially they just share their genetics with. It's like space eugenics. It's like, we'll give you your species as part of ours, whatever, what we've collected, and then we're going to take things from you, and that's how our species evolves. But it's like coercion, right? Because it's like, we'll save your planet, but also like the human race is going to die, because the next round of humans are going to be half human, half Oankali. Mm-hmm. And the first book is them on the like space station or the ship, and like the humans like coming to realize like we don't really have a choice. And then I think the next book is them going to the planet. But it is really good. It is freaky. There is like freaky tentacle mind sex. It's very wild. But it's also like a really intense story about like what it means to be human, what is worth survival, gender roles, like race roles, how how we would look to an outside species. Like the Owen Collie are like, you're an interesting species because you have two things that could be really like beneficial on their own, but together are destructive. Like you're supremely intelligent and you're hierarchical, and those things cannot exist at the same time, which is fascinating. It is, I don't know if I would recommend it. I liked it a lot. I don't know, it's fucking weird. It's very weird.
Was that the first Octavia Butler that you had read?
Yeah, which is hilarious that the first one I read was the freaky alien tentacle one.
I mean, that seems super on brand.
On brand. I think Amazon has the rights to this, and their Ava DuVernay is like slotted to direct the Xenogenesis series. And in my head, I'm like, cool, I want to see this. And also, what? How are they gonna do this? Okay, I'm on board.
I mean, it's Amazon, they can do whatever the fuck they want.
I'm very excited to read the rest of them, but I'm waiting for them from the library. The second book I finished was Imprudence. It's the second in the Custard Protocol series by Gail Carriger. Gail Carriger wrote my favorite book of all time, Soulless, and I've read a bunch of her other stuff, other series that I love, and all of her series except for one and a couple short stories exist in like the same universe. And I haven't ever had a problem with it, but I'm having a problem with this YA series because it takes place after my favorite series and it has to deal with a lot of the same characters. And even though I like Prudence and all of the other characters, I like their parents more. And I'm like, yeah, but you keep referencing them and I just want to be reading about like Alexia and Connell. But I will say in the second one, that kind of stops halfway through. Like they take Alexia and Connell to their final destination, whatever. And it stops being so much about the Paracel Protectorate and more about them on their own. And I enjoyed that a lot more. And so there's two more in the series. And I think now that they've finally established that they're like young adults on their own, they're like 18 or 19 now. So they're no longer under the like purview of their parents and they can establish themselves as characters outside of that. I think I will have a lot more fun. But if you're going to read a Gail Carriger, I would start with Soulless because it fucking slams. It's the best.
Yeah, for real.
It's so good. And then keeping in that, I read Romancing the Werewolf, which is a supernatural society. It's a short story. And it follows Biffy and Lyle and their relationship. And it's very cute. But you can't really read that without reading everything else. So again, start with Paracel Protectorate. Don't fuck with the order, man. Just start. But Gail Carriger is one of my favorites. Like Soulless has been my favorite book for like a decade. Like nothing has bumped that off. Like it's speaking of books that are entirely on brand.
Oh yeah.
That'll be my favorite book till I fucking die. It's the best. I read Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata. It's a short story. I guess it probably would be considered a novella. I read it because one of my best friend's moms is a really fast reader too, and I like her, and so we communicate through Rosemary. Like, what book are you reading? What book are you reading? And she read a lot of Japanese books this year, and she said this one was one of her favorites, and this one has actually been on my like TBR for a while, so I just bumped it up. It's really, really good. It is about
I've heard
a girl.
Really good things about it.
It's so good, and it's really short. If you're looking for a short thing to round out your reading list, like highly recommend. I listened to the audiobook, but I think it would be a good read too, because it's written at a very specific cadence. But it's about a woman who, it's never discussed what she has, but she has some kind of neurological thing where she's like maybe a sociopath, maybe very autistic, like she just doesn't understand how to interact with the world around her, and her family doesn't. They try, but they like are just like, when are you going to stop being weird? like
Never.
Yeah, when are you going to be normal? Like she tells a story in the beginning, like on the playground, she finds a dead bird and everybody's like, oh, that's so sad, we should have a funeral. And she's like, we should cook it. It's like, we eat bird all the time. Why are we crying? Which is great. But she learns how to fake it essentially, and then she gets a job at a convenience store, and the convenience store is so regulated and there are rules, and she learns how to mask essentially. She like learns how to imitate her coworkers, and she follows the rules of the convenience store, and she's there for like 18 years, and it's her. So she's like in her late 30s, early 40s, and people are starting to be like, okay, but like, why are you still here? And she's like, oh man, this is not good enough cover anymore. Like, what do I do?
Interesting.
She's very self-aware. She's like, I understand that I am not quote unquote right, but I don't know how to fake it without some help. It's really good. It's short. I loved it. I'm very glad that my friend's mom recommended it to me. Highly recommend.
Love a mom recommendation. They go one of two ways. They're either incredible or you're like, what the fuck is this?
This one,
there's no in between.
It reminded me a little bit of Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine, in that it's first person and it's a person who is very self-aware about their differences and how they interact and how like other people kind of see them. But where Eleanor Oliphant has more of a traditional happy ending and a more like Western, like let's tie it up with a bow ending, Convenience Store Woman doesn't. And I liked that about it. Cool. Not that it has a sad ending or anything. It's just not, it's not like a bow on top at the end. I read Accidentally Engaged by Farah Heron because over the past 2 weeks, me and Nick were watching a lot of rom-coms because it's Christmas time. What else are we supposed to do? And I had the epiphany. I was like, Nick, you love rom-coms. I think that you would like a romance novels. We should read a romance novel together. We should have a couples romance book club. And now we do. We have bought a bunch of romance novels. We have our own TBR. And this was the first one. I just took a bunch of them off my shelf and I just read the backs of them, and Nick picked this one. This one is about an Indian woman who loves baking, and her like job is kind of a mess, and like her family is pushing her to marry people, but she's kind of like, whatever, just leave me alone. I just like to exist. But her parents keep trying to push her on to men. And then she meets this guy, also Indian, and they kind of flirt, and then she realizes like, oh, you're the person that my parents are trying to set me up with. Like I'm not going to marry you. But they form a friendship, and they're both like, we're not going to marry each other because we want to defy our families. Like they can't tell us what to do. But there's a baking competition that you have to have like a couple to enter. And so they pretend to be a fake couple for this baking competition. It is super tropey, like fake relationship, whatever. Baking competition aside, is one of the most realistic romance novels I've ever read. Like it deals with family stuff really interestingly. It's really cool how they're both Indian, but they're both specifically like from Tanzania. So they have like very specific cultural stuff that they're like cooking and talking about. It deals with like mental health in like a really nuanced way. One of the side characters is Indian but is in a relationship with like a white person, and they talk about that. There's like job loss stuff and like making your way in the world type shit. I don't know, it dealt with like a lot of really heavy topics in a very realistic way, but it was still super enjoyable. I liked it a lot, and I was like, this is a good pick for Nick's first run. We're currently reading, spoiler for an upcoming episode, we're currently reading Matzo Ball. Which hilarious. Is about a Jewish woman who writes Christmas romance novels, but then she has to go to a Jewish event called the Matzo Ball, run by her nemesis and former lover.
Wow. Oh boy.
Yeah, well, so that's TBD on that one. I read Only Mostly Devastated by Sophie Gonzales. I won't talk about it a lot because Erin's in the middle of it. Mm-hmm. It is a queer YA retelling of Greece, and it is fucking adorable. It's great.
I'm really enjoying it. I'm really glad that you picked this for book club. I know that you picked it because I love Greece, and you were like, this is mostly for Erin, but
well, my whole thing with book club this year is like I'm only picking queer romances or stories that have a queer couple centered or whatever. And this one I chose specifically for you.
And I'm really enjoying it. I felt like such a nerd when he was teaching his younger cousins that the chords on the guitar, and I was like, oh my god, this is those magic changes. I'm gonna look up this video and send it to the group chat. Because as soon as he started listing them, I was like, I understand this reference. I'm so excited.
It's super duper cute. It's very over the plate queer YA retelling of Greece. If any of that sounds good, read it. It's very good. Very cute.
Yeah, I agree.
I finished a book called Monster, She Wrote, The Women Who Pioneered Horror and Speculative Fiction by Lisa Kruger. In the same vein that Paperbacks from Hell was by Grady Hendrix, did like a deep dive on like horror paperback boom. This is about women who write horror and speculative fiction throughout history, and it's basically just a deep dive that's like, yeah, we've always been around, and the fact that this is like a quote male genre is bullshit. Here are all the people that are really important, and it obviously hits big ones like Shirley Jackson and Mary Shelley, things like that, Anne Rice, but it hits a ton of people I had never heard about and sound fucking fascinating. And it starts from like the Edwardian time up until now and talks about stuff that was, I think this must have come out a year ago, because it talks about stuff that's published in like 2019. So it really, really hits like the just cross genre. It's broken up into sections. So there's like a section that's like the founding mothers and a section that's like haunting the home. And that's more about like, you know, in the 60s and stuff when they was talking about like, oh, we're trapped in our houses. And then like modern stuff. And it breaks those sections down. Like here's the overarching theme. And then it will follow like 5 different authors. And then the best part about it is it gives you like a reading list. Like if you're going to read, I know, right? If you want to read a book by this person, read this one. But also if you like that, here's a bunch of other stuff. And it's really easy to read because it's broken up into these sections. If you have any interest in like horror and specifically like women in horror or just like the history of it, I highly, highly recommend this book. I did listen to the audiobook because it was free, but this is one that I like bought immediately because I was like, I want to have this physically, just like with Paperbacks from Hell. Like I want the reading list. I want to see all this stuff. I highly, highly recommend it. And because of that, there was a whole section about like Victorian England and how on Christmas they used to like read ghost stories. And so on Christmas, I read a ghost story. I read Afterward by Edith Wharton because a friend of ours, Ben, went to the Edith Wharton Museum and bought me like a little book that was like, here's a Christmas ghost story. I like the tradition. The story sucked. Afterward, not a solid ghost story. Edith Wharton has read in other ones.
Was it one of those haunted bookshelf series, like the little books?
Maybe. It is pretty little.
Because I told you I bought like that whole series because I bought you one of those books for Christmas. Okay. Like, so you'll also be getting one of those from me. I'm glad everyone in our friend group is like, these are right up her alley.
But I was inspired. A friend gave it to me, but I was inspired after reading that one that I was like, oh, I like this tradition of like reading a ghost story on Christmas. And because you had told me about that last time. So that is all that I read. I read a fucking bunch, but most of it was really good, except for that ghost story.
Fair enough.
What's your rant?
Oh man, buckle up. I've got a tale. I've got a horror.
Yeah, I've seen the photographic evidence. It's rough.
Okay. So, as you all know at this point, I'm very pregnant. One of the things about being pregnant, gross body stuff, sorry, not sorry, your stomach gets big enough that like you can't see your pubic hair anymore. And so I was like, I can't shave, I can't like do any kind of maintenance because I can't see anything and I don't want to fucking cut my clit off or whatever. Like I would prefer not to do that. That would be really unfortunate. And so apparently this is quite common, and during this whole ordeal, the senior waxer told me this, but like apparently it's very common that as women get closer to their due dates, a lot of them will schedule Brazilian waxes so that they don't have to be shaved in the delivery room if there's like, if you experience tearing, if you have to get a C-section, etc. Like personally, I did not want a doctor in there trying to deliver a baby with like a Bic razor trying to shave my pubic hair. I was like, I'm not interested in that. So I scheduled this Brazilian wax. And one of the things that happens when you're pregnant is your skin gets very sensitive. And so I was like prepared for the fact that it was going to hurt. It wasn't the first time that I had had a Brazilian wax. So here's the important piece of this story too, is that I'll schedule haircuts, waxing, stuff like that with Douglas J, which is a training academy, mostly because like I'm like kind of the perfect client for those kind of places. Like I don't care. And so if someone fucks up really badly with like a haircut, it's not gonna ruin my day. It's not gonna ruin my month. Like I'll go home and I'll do the queer clip my own hair shit. Like it doesn't bother me. And like students need to learn, and like it is really important that people be open to going to these kind of things because that's literally how people learn and get better at that kind of stuff. And so I am pretty strict about like, I try to only go to these places because I think it's important to have a steady stream of people who are willing to do this. And so the only other time I've ever had a Brazilian wax, I was the model for a class that was learning how to do it. And so I've like been and done it at a décolleté. It was the weirdest experience.
My face right now.
It was in Michigan, and some of the people in that class I had graduated high school with. And so they were like, hey, good to see you. And I'm like, I'm naked from the waist down. This is like the weirdest time to catch up ever, but whatever, it's fine. And so like I was prepared at least for the experience and for what it was like to have a student do it. And so I was like ready for that. So I scheduled it with one of the students, and she had never waxed someone who was as pregnant as me. And that I think is the big flaw in the way that their system works. There's no place to say like, I'm super pregnant. And so if there had been, she probably would have just brought the senior waxer in immediately. And known like, I don't know what I'm doing.
I can't handle this.
I cannot handle this. And so, but she was like really polite. We like chatted through what I wanted. And so she put the wax on me. And because she had never waxed someone who was so pregnant, she started on the wrong side, basically. Like the way you should do it when someone is pregnant is you should start from the back and work your way forward so that the pain tolerance can kind of build up. And the skin right underneath your uterus is the most sensitive. And so you shouldn't start there. And she didn't know that. And I had never been waxed while I was pregnant. So I didn't know that really either. And so she put the wax on, and she did 2 of the most painful pulls I've ever experienced in my entire life. And I must have made the worst noise because the senior waxer immediately came in and was like, hey, what's going on here? Everything okay?
I hate hearing the story. I'm like clenching.
Yeah. And so the senior waxer like basically did a lesson for her that was like, this is how you wax a pregnant person. And so she did the rest of my wax, and so it was fine. I mean, it was still fucking painful because it's a Brazilian wax and I'm pregnant, but like it was fine. But like the student like did the like cleanup, and she like did the oils at the end and put the cool compresses on me, and then they sent me home. And I didn't even think about it till I left, like, oh, normally they show you what it looks like, but like a part of it was like, I'm so pregnant it doesn't matter, like I can't see it anyway, I don't really give a fuck, like it's done, I don't care. But I got home and I was like, whew, I am sore in a way that I was not anticipating. And so I looked in the mirror and I had the biggest fucking bruise I've ever seen.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's not good. It's not cute.
It was fucking awful. It was like, let's see, I would say the size of like a dinner roll, like right on my pubic bone. And it was black. Like it was clearly from those first 2 pulls. And it hurt so fucking bad. Like it was so bizarre because it was like, if it was like on my labia, that would be one thing and it would be very painful in a different way. But the fact that it was like on the upper part of my pubic bone also made it hard because every time I sat down, I was like, oh my God. And like, I was like, hey, Michael, look at this. And I showed him the bruise and he was like, what the fuck happened to you?
Yeah, you texted me and Emily and I was like, Jesus Christ, you should sue.
But it's like, again, she's a student. She had never waxed someone as pregnant as me. I went in knowing that was a possibility. It was just like, this is clearly a step that needs to be added to this process.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm pregnant and I should be able to tell you that that's the case, so that if you've never done this before, you don't accidentally fuck somebody up super bad. But like, it's a lot better now. It doesn't really hurt as much. It's been like a week basically. It's still pretty bruised, but it's not like painful as much anymore. But it was just like, wow, this was a fucking nightmare. So that's my rant. I wish that there was some way to indicate when you're going to a training academy, like, I'm really pregnant and you should maybe have somebody there to hold your hand for this. But it's done, and like, I don't have to worry about it anymore. And I don't have to, like, again, I'm not going to have a doctor who's in a hurry to get a baby out of me trying to shave me with a Bic razor. Like, that also sounds like a fucking nightmare that I would not want to experience either. So It's done. I don't have to worry about it anymore. So that's my rant. Your face right now. It's bad. I know.
First time I ever got a Brazilian. I think the only time I've got a Brazilian, because I don't like getting Brazilians. I like very controlled little, but
normally I do as well.
Yeah,
I prefer that as well.
I think the first and only time I got a full Brazilian was because I didn't understand how you book it, and I was like, yeah, wax my bikini, and they were like, okay, we'll wax it all off. But I did also go to a training facility, and it was like an older woman actually, so maybe she was just like, redoing her career or whatever. She did a great job, but I thought the whole process was so funny. It was just my first time, and I was alone with this like old woman just waxing my vagina. I thought it was so funny, and every time she would pull, I would laugh, and she would be like, "Are you okay?" I'd be like, "Yeah, yes." So she probably thought it was like a weird response to like pain or whatever, which I guess probably could be. That seems very like on brand in my brain to like laugh at the face of pain. Yeah. But also she was just like, are you okay, weirdo? And I was like, I'm fine. Are you okay?
Yeah. I will say it was nice that like we're in the run of doing all the like expectant parenting classes, and so I also like just watched videos about how to breathe through the different stages of labor. So I got to like practice my first stage labor breathing because that was so fucking painful that I think it is top 2 most painful things I've ever had done was getting a Brazilian while I was this pregnant. The only thing more painful than this was when I got my IUD in and thought I was gonna fucking die. And my doctor told me while I got it in, this is probably what labor will feel like for you. I was like, great. Fantastic.
Love that for me.
Yeah.
My rant is COVID. It seems, it's about time we ranted about COVID.
I mean, yeah, we've definitely never talked about this.
It's just hard to know what to do, right? Like with this new strain, like I'm vaxxed, I'm boosted, I like wear my mask in public. Like I only I don't wear my mask in like strategic ways. And it's still like I took like a bajillion tests this week because I had multiple like, oh, this person I know that I was in a room with has COVID. So like it's so hard to know what to do. And I know that everybody else is going through this. And I feel like I know so many people with COVID right now. And like, I mean, knock on wood, it seems like at least Omicron, if you get it, especially if you've been vaxxed and stuff, like it's really contagious, but it's not that like the likelihood of you being like taken out and going to the hospital is like a lot lower, and like that's why vaccines are important. You should get vaccinated. But it's just like it just feels like it's never ending, and maybe it is. Like we talk about like this is the new normal, but it's also hard to know what to do as like a producer, right? Like we just had a show live back and it went really well and nobody got COVID from it and everybody's feeling good, and like we're supposed to have a show in like 2 fucking weeks and I barely like promoted it because I'm like, do I cancel this? Do I not cancel? Like, what do I do? Like, I don't want to fuck over the theater because we've already canceled the show before. I don't know what to do because like we have to live our lives in an adjusted way, but also like what is the right thing to do? And it just sucks. Like our holiday party, like our small like 8-person, we were basically in each other's pods during like peak COVID holiday party got canceled because 2 of us had like, yeah, I probably have COVID. And then like one of us did get COVID. Like that sucks. And like we're trying to reschedule it. And it's like, sure, we'll reschedule it for this date. Shrug. Like maybe just frustrated, or like your baby shower is coming up. I'm like, I don't know, do I just hand out masks? Like what do I do?
Yeah, I've also been thinking about that a lot, and like going to Michael's family stuff this last weekend, they were like, we haven't RSVP'd because like
I don't have a lot of RSVPs, and I think it's because a lot of people don't know what to say.
Yeah, and I just told like everybody like straight up, don't feel any pressure to come. I don't want anybody to feel like I'm pushing you into a place where you're going to be uncomfortable. Like, don't feel like you have to come to this. Like, it feels impossible. It feels like no right answer. And it's like, and it's like, this is so shitty. And it makes me feel shitty to say it, but like, especially as a new parent who like needs to have baby showers because I like need a bunch of stuff. And like, that's the whole fucking point of these is it's like, I don't know, what is the right move here? Like, do I cancel it? Do I still do this? And like we talked about doing our wrestle game Christmas like the day after that, and it's like, okay, well, if we're having this party the day before, should we be having Wrestle Gang Christmas the
I
next
feel like
day?
we should just bang them out. Like probably
do them on the same day.
boom, 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 like your baby shower, the Plan 9 show, and then the fucking Christmas thing. Be like, I don't know, this is a wild, stressful weekend. Let's just go.
I guess most people will be at all three of those things anyway. So it's like, well, if someone's exposed, we're all exposed at that point. And like, but that fucking sucks. Right. And like, how do you navigate that? Nightmare.
Yeah. So it's just kind of a bummer. A continual evergreen bummer, I guess.
Yeah, for real.
So. What's your rave?
I have like a mini rave and then a greater rave. So my mini rave is I fucking love the end of the year when everybody's best of book list comes out, because my reading list is outrageous right now.
Oh, it's like I updated my reading goals for 2021 or 2022, and I was like, oh God, I already basically have 150 books on this.
Yeah, I have like 250 books in my TBR. I was like, there's no way I'm gonna get through all of this in the next 3 years. Like this, and then it will just keep
adding. I had that stressful thought the other day. I was like, I'm gonna die with a TBR.
Yeah, I am for sure. It's like I've just accepted that in lots of ways, because part of it too is like we were talking about earlier, like it's not just stuff from this year, like stuff from previous years that people are recommending or that I'm finding on other lists that are like, oh, I'm reading this thing that then there's this back reading on it that I'm now interested in that, and everything goes onto the TBR, and I'm just like, this is never gonna fucking end. But like, it's weird. It's like this Veda Scott tweeted about this, where she was like, sometimes I get this like overwhelming, like pleasurable, warm feeling about how I'll never be able to complete all of the reading that I want to, which is sort of how I feel, where it's
stresses
like
me out.
It's stressful, but at the same time, like it's so nice to know that there's just so much, like there's so much, and like we both read so much shit in so many different genres.
Specifically me, I read a lot of shit. I read some wild stuff.
But like we just read such a variety of things that it's like if we only ever read one genre, I feel like it would be a lot more manageable.
Yeah.
But like we both are just into like such a wide variety of reading that I love when the end of year lists come out and it's like, oh my God, there's so much on here I want to read. And it's also nice to get to the end of the year and be like, oh, I read a lot of this stuff. Yeah. Like some of the stuff that people are recommending, it's like, oh, well, like Claire in the Sun is on a lot of people's best of lists, and like I didn't particularly care for that, and so it's interesting to be like, okay, well, if you're recommending this thing that I kind of liked, that makes me question more of this other stuff, like is our tastes in line too? And so you get this like puzzle that you get to work out of like, am I gonna like this, am I not gonna like this, I don't know. And then my greater rant, so
rave
sorry, my greater rave, my husband, a couple of weeks ago, we were supposed to record for Extracts, and because we had this COVID scare, we wound up canceling that day, and I didn't have anything going on. And so he was like, how would you feel about going to a bunch of estate sales? And so he planned a whole day for us where we drove around the city and we went to 6 different estate sales.
Oh, dope.
And Brown Elephant, and it was so much fun. Like Michael's not a shopping person particularly. He doesn't like clutter in the same way that I do, but he was just like so excited to do this, and like he had never been to an estate sale before, and so he was having like a great time. The first one we went to, we wound up spending almost our whole budget at, because it was different, because like most estate sales are somebody died and then you go in and you like root through dead people's things, which I fucking love. I'm super into that. Like that's my jam.
Surprising.
Totally on brand. But this one was somebody who was moving, who had a clothing business, and so he was like selling things, estate sale style, but like more like a garage sale almost. But he had like tons of old school designer stuff. There were a bunch of like old school jerseys. We bought a couple of like old school like socks, like training jackets, so like cool stuff, but it was like more expensive than you would normally spend it at an estate sale. We walked out, we were like, well, we just blew our whole budget at the first one, and then went to a bunch of others and like basically bought nothing else the whole day. But it was cool to be able to drive around and be like, there are just so many different kinds of estate sales, like every single one is different. We went to 6 that were completely different from every other one that we'd been to. Like it was just fun to go and like, oh yeah, this this kind of shopping is fun, especially because like no one's fucking there. When you're doing like estate style shopping, like we were the only people in these houses most of the time. So it also felt very safe in a way that it was like, I don't want to be at the mall. I don't want to be like surrounded by people. And so it felt like a return to normalcy in a way that was like really nice. And it was also like, I was texting my mom and my sisters that I was doing it, and they were like, what a sweet date idea. And I was like, oh, I guess we are on a date, huh? Like it didn't even occur to me. I was like, oh yeah, I guess we are having like kind of a romantic day together. So it's nice. It's nice to feel like normal for a hot second again. Everywhere we went, everybody was like, when are you due? How pregnant are you? I was like, yeah, I'm pretty fucking pregnant.
Yeah, that's the stage you're at.
Yeah, I'm officially at the stage where many people have said to me, well, you never want to assume that someone's pregnant, but you can kind of tell. Like, yeah, thanks, I know.
Aware.
I'm fucking aware. What's your rave?
I only have 10 episodes left of Supernatural, and I have my tattoo appointment for Wednesday. I did it, man. I did it. Which is funny because I know several people that started after me, but like, I don't watch it in the like background and not pay attention to it. I'm like actively engaging in it. I'm literally like tweeting with like friends, but I just think it's funny. I've like started to build a timeline of like, I started it on this day. Here are my complaints about it. Here is the day that Erin was like, you're going to get a tattoo. And I was like, eat it. I never wear it. Well, here's the day I started fanfic. Here's the day. And like, I contacted my tattoo artist because I also landed on a pretty cool tattoo idea, TBD, because I didn't want to just get the like possession symbol or anti-possession symbol. I wanted it to like fit within my other tattoos. And I'm going to the tattoo artist who did my vampire lips, my Trek pinup, and my gravestone. And I emailed her and I was like, here's my idea. Also, what is the likelihood of you being available on January 3rd? Because I was like, I want to get it tattooed the day I started, but she was unavailable. So we're doing it on the 29th, but still it's close. But I am saving the final episode for that day.
Aw.
So
that's cute.
Yeah. See, Nick has been making fun of me. He's like, this is a self-imposed deadline. I was like, correct. But it's fun. Also, I didn't watch the show for like several months because I was too busy reading the fanfic. Like, so I'm also like cramming right now. But yeah, so I have 10 episodes left, and I just think it's funny. Because Erin read me to filth at the beginning, and now it's like a big part of my dumb life. And it's funny too, because like it is post this show being on air. And so I didn't like, this show was on for 15 years. Like I'm 32. That's like that's like half my fucking life. But I tried to watch it before, but I was a chicken little shit, so I didn't watch it. Also, again, I was in like a heat, like fugue. I was probably fucking hallucinating, to be honest. It's interesting because it like ended, last year, and I'm watching it for the first time, but the fandom is still pretty active. So it's interesting to like follow a bunch of people or be a part of like this Discord. I mean, I don't participate heavily because I also kind of feel like a voyeur because I'm like, I didn't totally participate. Like I'm in it, like I jumped in cannonball style, but like I'm not, whatever. So it's an interesting parallel because like, again, my main fandom is Star Trek, and my main love of Star Trek is the 1960s one. So it's not the most active fandom. It's a pretty active fandom though for a 1960s show because there are a bunch of young Tumblr queers who love it. I also feel like a voyeur there, but it's just been an interesting year and, a good way to deal with COVID, I guess.
You came out of 2021 with just a full-blown obsession.
I mean, yeah, I had. What do you want from me, man?
Well, I'm proud of you, and I'm proud of me for saying that this is definitely going to happen.
Yeah, 2020, I got really into Hannibal. Still very into that. Watching it very slowly with Nick. Ugh, he's like a big baby. We just got to the lobotomy episode, and I was like, close your eyes. I still like actively read like Hannibal fanfic and stuff, and like I love Hannibal too. So 2020 was Hannibal, 2021 Supernatural. I need nothing else. Please don't suggest anything. I can't handle it. Please leave me alone. I'm coasting on the things I already like until Good Omens 2 comes out. Okay. Like, I don't need anything else. Leave me alone. I don't want to watch the shows that you like or the books that you like. Do not suggest anything to me, please.
Oh, fuck.
All right. We're working on rebuilding our questions. What did you have a New Year's resolution? That could be.
I don't know. I don't normally set New Year's resolutions anymore. I set more like goals.
New Year's intention.
Yeah, my like New Year's intention. I don't know. It's hard because in the first 2 months I'll be giving birth, and so I feel like my big goal is just to like, I know it's a super big cliche, but like everybody says once you become a parent, like it changes you, you become a very different person, and like I just want to embrace that, I guess. That's kind of my goal, is to not feel judgment on myself about how well I'm adjusting. And I don't want to set like, oh, well, by this date, I should be doing this. And by this time, I should be feeling this. And like, I really just want to learn how to relax into it. And so that's my big goal, is like spend the first 6 weeks until I'm due, like relaxing and figuring out like, okay, these are my intentions, but also I want to be realistic that like everything is gonna change. And so I'm trying to like just be very uncharacteristically relaxed about it. And like that's kind of my big goal. I know I'm also like trying to set myself up for the like realization I'm going to do a lot less reading next year. And so I want to get through my audiobook backlog and restart my Audible, or probably more likely start getting more audiobooks from the library and like really focus on that for next year. I think that's my big goal. I haven't set a number for reading. I'm not really sure yet because I don't really know what to expect. And I don't really know like.
Just count all the baby books you read.
Yeah, fair. I might.
Harold and the Purple Crayon. That's 1. Nailed it. Yertle the Turtle. That's 2. You're good.
Yeah, I feel like if I set like my regular goal of like 70 to 100 books, if I include all of the children's books, I might hit it. What are your goals? Do you have any resolutions? You always do. So what's your number for next year?
I feel like 150 is a solid. More than 150 feels insane, but 150 is something I can totally do. So I'm just keeping it at 150. So that's going to be that. I have a bunch of like reading goals and stuff, but like that's insane, frankly. It's like a 2-page document and nobody should do that to themselves. Yours was all like philosophical. I've like done ones. Like I want to finish painting my house. Like I hate painting. I hate getting shit together, but like I know that once I do it, it feels better. And like the rooms that I have done are the rooms I spend the most time in. And like, I feel like every time anybody comes over to see our new house, they're like, oh, cool. And I'm like, here are all the things that aren't going to change. And like, I would like to be able to not bring that energy to like every time somebody comes to the house. So getting the painting done, which doesn't seem like a big one, but it is a big one for me.
That's a big one. That it's not easy to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that you have a good philosophy. Like, I know I'm not giving birth. That's a good philosophy, especially like, as we said, like things are changing. There's a new normal. Like, what are we going to do? Like careers are shifting. And just like embracing that change and not like freaking out about it. I feel like I've spent the past decade culminating in going to school, like really trying to pigeonhole myself into this idea of like what I think my career should be or what my life should be, or like I like X thing, so I should turn it into a job because like that was my past, right? Like I wanted to be in theater. I liked theater. I did it for a really long time. That was going to be my career. And when I stopped, I was like, I don't know I don't know how to exist. And so I just took things and was like, fill this gap. And I feel like I'm getting to a place where I am starting to know what I want more and have like more goals. And also like those goals are not necessarily the ones that I thought that they were. And that's kind of scary in and of itself to be like, oh, this thing is actually not what I want. And that's okay, even though I spent time and money and degrees and shit on it. I guess my intention would be like that. I like the idea of like relaxing into a place, but also like learning to like things just to like things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily like media and stuff like that too, but like just existing and being okay with that. I feel like not only like our hustle culture, but like just the way that we live our lives. It's like it feels like we're just joking about like I have a 2-page document about reading. Like, what is it like to just like read for fun?
Sounds fake, to be honest.
And I know that like that's always going to be a part of my personality, but like it would be nice. I've been going on a lot more like walks with my like husband and stuff, and like, you know, stop and smell the flowers or whatever, especially since everything changes every fucking day with the state of the world, right? Like, who knows? We gotta just relax into the next 20 years because who the fuck knows what's gonna happen?
Yeah, for real.
So we better start learning how to be super chill now.
Yep.
Yeah. I did not mean to end it on a fucked up note.
Whatever. We're in our 30s. We're allowed to be dark.
Spooky.
That's
it. I think we should cap it there. 2021.
What a nightmare.
What a nightmare. We could say next year is going to get better, but
it won't.
Historically, I don't know if that's true.
Yep. I'm going to relax into the next year's shit show. I saw a bunch of people tweeting about like, I'm done with personal growth. It's the circumstances turn to improve. And that's how I feel about 2022. I'm like, there are things I want to obviously learn how to do. And I want to like relax into this new stage of my life. But also like, it's been a nightmare for 2 years. We've been living in an active pandemic that feels like it might literally never end now. And like, I'm okay if in 2022 I'm just learning to go with the flow and that's it. And like that seems hard enough. So that's kind of good enough for me.
Also, I want to learn how to throw knives. I told that to Nick. I was like, I'm going to build a thing. I'm going to do it in the garage. I'm going to get good at it. And he was like, this is weird. Stop.
Is it like, weird? It seems very on brand.
I've wanted to do it for a long time. I'm going to do it. I've watched a lot of videos.
That sounds dangerous. Watched a lot of videos. I'm sure I could do this.
No, you get, but you know what? TBD on the throwing knives. Come back next time when I'm a fucking expert.
This is gonna be like the tying knots thing where you're gonna be like, I can do all of this in theory. I think
the tying knots thing is more of like somebody's got to know how to tie knots at the end of the world. This one's more fun. I don't know. I watch a lot of Supernatural and they get out of the knots a lot. I feel like somebody needs to know how to tie better knots.
I mean, 2 in 1. You just got to meet somebody who has a boat because those people know how to fucking tie knots.
Yeah, but does this generation of boat owners know how to tie knots or?
Yes. I feel like people who own boats and people who were in the Eagle Scouts are like the only people who know how to tie fucking knots.
Well, and me. I'll get there.
And you.
All right, that's it. That's the podcast.
That's it for the year, everybody. Congratulations.
You survived.
You survived. All right.
That should be the new sign-off.
That's a good one. I like
Congratulations.
that. You survived. I love it. Perfect. All right. You can find us on the internet. You can find me at NYD Urgency on Instagram.
You can find me on Twitter at Stella_Cheeks.
You can send us an email with new questions for our very rapidly regrowing stack of questions.
It's exciting.
There's some good ones on there.
Yeah.
You can send us an email at notyourdemo@gmail.com.
You can interact with us on Twitter and Instagram at NYD Productions and use the hashtag #NotYourDemoPod.
And you can also sign up for our Patreon where we have all kinds of shit. Extra podcasts, podcast notes, outtakes, etc., etc., etc. at patreon.com/NotYourDemoPod.
You can also, if you join our Patreon, you get access to our Discord, and you can join our Patreon for only $1.
Only $1. And on our Discord, we'll be doing a book club about John Moxley's book, Mox, that's coming up. Join our Discord to get more details about that. Have either of us started that book? No, but we'll get there.
Join us next time where we have finished that book, because we have to.
Deadline.
That's it.
All right. Congratulations.
You survived.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Oh, I gotta pee. Damn, you probably have to pee.
Yep, I made sure I peed right beforehand because I'm smart.